during the course of this week, we're blessed to be in the house of the Lord. We thank God for Reverend McCall, Reverend Moses on his way. And come on and give this praise team another round. No, next Sunday is Easter Sunday, I believe. Amen. Resurrection Sunday. Amen. In the book of John chapter 12. Turn with us to the word. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Right. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, right, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then said one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag and bare what was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone. All right. Against the day of my burial has she kept this. Yeah. For the poor always ye have with you. Yeah. But me ye shall have not always. Yeah. Much people of the Jews therefore knew that he was there. They came not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus also, whom he had raised from the dead. Let me read these other two verses. I just need to do this. But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death, because that by reason of him many of the Jews went away and believed on Jesus. Amen. I want to talk about the evidence of the Lord's power. Evidence of the Lord's power. John carries us on Jesus' mission, his 3-year mission here on the earth. It is nearing the time when Jesus' ministry, the evidence of the Lord's power, when Jesus' ministry has become so powerful that even people who did not want to be in the meeting had to show up because they wanted to be somewhere in the know. Even his enemies followed him because they never knew what miracle would take place in their absence. Jesus had developed such reputation in the earth that even those who hated him wanted to see the next thing the Lord would do. It was not always a super miracle Jesus did. Sometimes it was just a need met along the way. The Bible lets us know that all the things he did are not written. We can only really talk about what he did. That is written. In this case, the Bible says in verse 1 of John 12, then Jesus 6 days before the Passover came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Came to where Lazarus was, whom he raised from the dead. There's not much doubt that Lazarus was dead. There was no doubt in the minds of anybody that Lazarus was dead. Allowed him to stay dead about 3 days. There they made him a supper. Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Amen. One of the signs of true life is the consumption of a meal. All right. I don't care how one appears. If he's dead, he's not going to be able to ingest or digest. Lazarus sits at the table with Jesus, and he also eats. The Bible tells us Mary took a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the odor of the ointment. You got to understand, she didn't have a barb. Undoubtedly, her hair had been cut. She anoints the Lord's feet with a very expensive ointment. She's undoubtedly enlightened as to what is about to take place in his life. To Mary, this is not a task, but a privilege. Anything we do for the Lord or in his name is never a task. It's always a privilege. It's always something you can expect him to bless you for doing. You don't have to ask for the blessing. In fact, most people who do something from the heart never do it because they expect something in return. They do it from a heart that is overflowing with love. Mary's heart was overflowing with love for the Lord. This relationship they had, this guidance they had received from him, this power they had witnessed in him, they had watched him work. They had seen his authority. They had seen him work, but they had seen his sympathy and empathy for humanity. They had watched the Lord. They knew there was something about him that was extremely uncommon. They knew that he possessed something that no man prior or after probably would never possess. She takes this ointment, spikenard, very costly, very odoriferous, and anointed the feet of Jesus. Watch it. Anointed his feet, not his head. She anointed his feet. This is humility at its best. All right. I mean, how many of y'all think I'm going to wash and anoint y'all's dirty feet? And the Lord was always walking. Sandals and no socks. Always moving. Bible says nothing about him washing his feet prior to sitting down. But she takes expensive ointment, not and anoint his head, but she anoints his feet. But listen, undoubtedly she doesn't wear a fro. She wipes his feet with her hair. I mean, come on, y'all. We get our due. I don't imagine there's a single woman in here this morning would wipe anybody's feet with their hair. When he got my braids, when he got my perm, when he got my extensions, and you think I'm going to wipe somebody's feet? And come to think of it, this ointment ain't cheap either. You think I'm going to wipe somebody's feet? Now, in the hood, let me just say it like we do in the hood. Negro, please. Be hard to wipe feet with my hair after me putting some expensive ointment on his feet. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you put on your clothes. This is the kind of stuff you use to smell good. And I'm going to anoint my Lord's feet. This is disposing everything that seems to have importance to society and put it on someone's feet. This is expensive ointment. And now it's her hair. What greater pride that a woman has than her hair? The prize of her hair is the prize of her dressing, is the prize of her preparing to leave home. Got to make sure that the last strand is in line. All right. But she takes her hair after putting this expensive ointment on it, on his feet. His dirty feet, walking from place to place. You never hear about him much riding on nothing except when he took the donkey. But he's always walking. He's always going from one place, point A to point B, on his feet with his disciples following. He's walking on dusty ground, and he arrives, and the Bible says nothing about him washing his feet before he sits. But she takes this expensive ointment, pours on his feet, wipes it with her hair. She divests herself of her own pride and wraps herself up in the needs of her Lord. She takes care of the master. She does for him. Judas is sitting there. The Bible says, then said one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him. Why was not this anointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? Yeah. Someone will always find a reason why someone else shouldn't bless you. Someone is always looking for a reason that they could have done better with what they gave you by giving it to someone who had a greater need. We don't always give because of a person's needs. We give because God has spoken to us to do what we're doing in the moment. Every one of us is God's property, and He knows what every one of us needs, but He also knows when we need to make a sacrifice. There are times in our lives when a sacrifice must be made. We can't do everything for profit. Every once in a while, something has to be given. Not leftovers. Not pieces of stuff you don't want. Just this weekend, one of our members, and they don't know I'm telling this, son had truckloads of stuff to bring, to give the church and to the shelter. Yeah. They went up, loaded up the truck, drove it back to Columbus. We've got stuff out there now. We got rid of all that stuff we had when I came here in '89. All right. And put new stuff in there. Not to be sold, to be given away. Yeah. But this young man didn't have to do that. Yeah. But he says, Mom, what is your church? Anything your church can use? Mm-hmm. She goes, yes. And he loads up this truck, drives it to Columbus, Georgia. Yeah. Watch this. This is not just for the church's sake, but it's for his mama's sake. Yeah. Because this is the church she loves. Yeah. And so he does it for her. Yeah. He's never darkened the door of this church, but maybe once. Yeah. But because of the love he has for another, he does something for the whole church. Yeah. Not to destroy, but to strengthen. This woman's faith is strengthened. The more she does for her master, the more she's strengthened from the inside out. Our strength doesn't come from what we do for us. It comes from what we do for others. The more I help you, the more God blesses me. The more I forgive you, the more God forgives me. I can't expect God to forgive me if I can't forgive you. This woman could have sold it. Everybody around said, you should have sold it. Yeah. Do you realize how much this was worth? Yeah. She didn't respond to him verbally, but she was probably thinking, yeah, it's worth a whole lot more to me using it for this than it is selling it. Yeah. There are some things we do not because of the money. There are some things we do and refuse the money. Because you know in the moment, whatever you're doing, God is going to do more for you than $5 can ever do. We have to learn how to make sacrifices. The crowd around recognizes what she's doing, even though she didn't do it for a show. She did it because of her love for Christ. Anoints his feet. But they said, you could give this to the poor. Because, thieves don't want you to put nothing where they can't get it. Somebody gonna catch that up there. He had the bag. He knew where he wanted to put it. He had the bag. If I can get you to put this where it belongs, I can ultimately get it. So I got the bag. Said this, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag and bear what was put therein. Everybody you hear screaming about, we don't need all that. We don't need to spend money on that.
That's what they say now.
Oh, I heard that. We're getting ready to put the new pews in, the new carpet down. We've had this all these years and been working fine then. But how many of us feel just a little bit better? Amen. This thief wants to undermine the Lord. I ain't going to be much hollering around here this morning. Not that he cared for the poor. Remember that. Not that he cared for the poor. Listen when people are talking to you about going, oh, child, you going overboard. Sometimes we need to go overboard to help somebody. Somebody has gone overboard to help me. When the bombs were dropping at night in Vietnam, I had folks to say, man, you all right? I said to folks, man, are you all right? Because we cared about one another, because we loved one another, and money didn't matter. We didn't get any anyway, but it didn't matter. You're in warfare. As a Christian, you're in warfare. Jesus Christ is still our Lord. There's a price he paid for us that we will never be able to pay back. And he never asks, what do I get from you in return? But instead, he's giving us an opportunity to love him unconditionally. To know how he has loved us in the way he has acted in the past. He's still very much alive in this present age. Talking about could have been given to the poor. But listen to what the Lord says. For the poor, always ye have with you. But me ye have not always. The poor you always have with you. How often have we heard folk despise the poor? How often have we heard folk talking about what they should have done? Poor is not new. Poor has been around throughout time. The opportunities people had then were similar as to now in that age. They didn't have, but yet they were in need. We're going to run into people every day. We look at them about and raise the question, how did you get here? What caused you to be in this condition? They begin to want to tell their story. And sometimes the story is so pitiful, we can't stand to hear it when they start to tell it. In fact, have you ever cut anyone off from giving you their story? Because at the moment you weren't ready, you thought you were ready because it was going to fix some things in your mind that you might not need to do, that you could excuse yourself for doing. But when they give you the story, it wraps you up, ties you up, and tangles you up in their condition. And it makes you want to empty your pocket, and you just ain't ready. We don't know what a person is going through. You see little children every day fending for themselves. Jesus is not around in the flesh to take over and feed them. But he's still around operating through us. I've learned to give into charities because I can't reach everybody as an individual. But for the people who set up to do it, I can always share my little with someone else's little. And we can help a lot of people when we work together. Jesus has this woman, the only woman with a benevolent spirit and heart in the crowd. She takes now and begins to do what only she would do. She anoints the Lord's feet. This is humility, y'all. She doesn't anoint his hair and brush it. She doesn't wipe his face, but she goes down to his feet. And I wondered why did she go to the feet? Then in my mind, it goes back. That's his transportation. He didn't have a Lincoln. He didn't have a Benz. He didn't have a Caddy. He didn't have a Hummer. He didn't have a Jeep. He had his feet. His feet were his means of transportation. Every now and then they, like the rest of his body, would get weary. This ointment was infiltrated with medicinal usage. And she took the ointment and anointed his feet so that they would get some ease from travel, because his journey was far from being over. But what she did was help him to get from this place to the next place. Because all across through there was a need for the touch of the Master's hands. Just like all across and all through Beulah, all across Columbus, Georgia, all across these United States, as we're witnessing every day, we need a touch of the Master's hands. Though he's not walking in the dust anymore, though he hasn't been around in the physical like that anymore, but his spirit is now what we have. But here in the interim, the woman knew he was walking. Here in the interim, the woman knew he needed to get from point A to point B. The woman knew that in the interim, just as people needed him where he was, they needed him where he was going. And every once in a while, we have to get us off of our minds and think about what the Master could do if we go ahead and do our part and allow him to work through us. Let us, though we're not able to anoint his feet, let us carry his word in our bosom. Though we're not able to sit around the campfire with him in the physical, but still let us spend time with him in our prayer closets, in our prayer rooms. Yes, though we don't have multitudes following us, but at least when we come together, let us learn how to love on one another just a little bit. Not leave one another in their troubles alone. But every opportunity we get to help somebody, let us stretch out our hands and just help somebody. And every time we get to lift somebody, let us lift them and not bring them down. Because every one of us has a spark in us that God wants to use. Let us bring out the spark. Let us find that spark. And let us help people with that little spark that is in them. Help them them see Jesus. The evidence of the Lord's power can operate through us today. We're not helpless, but God can make us powerful. Don't let yesterday hold you from today and perhaps what God has for us tomorrow. Let us learn to love in spite of. Never let someone else bring you down to their level. Always look up. God has you in his hands. This man could have sat weary, but the Lord anoints the man's feet. This is the Lord. If the Lord could do it, why can we not humble ourselves to love one another, no matter what the background might be, no matter what the person who sat to them last Sunday might be saying, no matter what they're saying about them in the community. Every one of us in the building that's over 10 years old, somebody in the community could say something about us. The Lord wants a healing to take place among all of his people. The Lord wants to lift us, to guide us, to strengthen us. He wants us to be able to show what love is. And if we can, people can see love in action. If you're here this morning, disconnected, we would love to have you come. And let the Lord do in us and for us what he wants to do. Jesus looks at this man, anoints him, blesses him. Let us find someone for whom we can be a blessing today. And listen, learn how to love. I wish they go another round on that, baby.
Whatever you want, whatever you need, and God in faith, he will give it to you. Whatever you want, whatever you need, and God in faith, he will give it to you. If you need a lawyer, if you need your case, all you gotta do, bow down and call on his name. Whatever you want, whatever you need, and God is faithful, he will give it to you. If you need a doctor, if you need your friend, all you got to do is bow down and call on his name. Whatever you want, whatever you need, all you got to do is bow down and call on his name. Whatever you want, whatever you need, and God is faithful, he will give it to you. How many must believe that?
Let's see if our band chorus again.